How are we doing, my fellow vinyl associates? I'm Mr. Godzilla, and today we have a robotic chicken. No, not that robot chicken. I'm talking about our cyborg friend here, the X Plus 30cm series, Gigan 1972. This review is brought to you by the suggestion of Godzilla01, so thanks for the suggestion and be sure to check him out on Instagram, link in the description. Gigan is actually one of the first modern era X Plus, with his original issue back in late 2009, which isn't that old, but the new era of X Plus is actually quite recent. The following year, in 2010, it was released as an unpainted cast kit. In 2011, it was released as a Wonderfest exclusive limited to 100 that had a nighttime paint variant. In 2012, it was released in the Real Master Collection, built and painted with a basin nameplate. In 2015, it was released as a RIC exclusive with a light-up visor, and finally saw its ultimate reissue through Diamond in 2016, back when those were a thing and the world was a better place. This guy has seen a lot of releases, and it's obvious that he's a popular kaiju, but let's see how this figure holds up when intimately dissected by a guy with nothing better to do. Let's get this out of the way now. I prefer the 25cm, and I was really looking for reasons to hate this guy, but it was quite difficult for me to find them. That being said, I'm definitely biased and opinionated, so just deal with it. Here's the part where I tell you that my opinion probably holds very little value to you, and you know, you don't have to listen to me if you don't want to, so watch at your own risk. Gigan is one of the most unique and complex kaiju designs in the Godzilla series, ranking among my favorites and crafted from too many influences to name. I'd like to quickly point out that his name is comprised of actor Yujiro Ishihara's nickname, Nice Guy, and the word Goose, for some reason. Anyway, Gigan is from the 1972 film Godzilla vs. Gigan, somehow retitled to Godzilla on Monster Island for the US release, and horribly cut up, cause these early Godzilla distributors just like to mess with the movies unnecessarily. I'm not sure the film fares much better though. It's a wild ride between Godzilla theme parks, cockroach aliens, talking kaiju, stock footage, and dudes who love corn, or something. I have no idea what the movie's about. It might be one of the most ridiculous Godzilla films there is, but man is it a fun one. I definitely watched this film as a kid more times than I'd like to admit. It also features our friends Anguirus and King Ghidorah, as well as being the first film that drew blood from Godzilla and probably making Subaraya roll in his grave. I also just want to make it clear that I'm reviewing the 1972 suit today, not the goofy looking 73 suit or the revamped Final Wars design. Only OG discussion today.
Don't miss Godzilla on Monster Island, rated G.
Oh yes, a classic 30cm box, which, unlike his gross reissue box, is just fantastic. Fun, colorful background, sweet posing, cool font and text, it's just a masterpiece. Oh, and it says PX Previews up there, meaning I've got the Diamond reissue. More on that in a second. In case you're unfamiliar with what a Diamond reissue is, it was basically a series of reissues of standard X Plus figures that sometimes contained slight variances, but was basically the same figure at incredible price points. The only downside is lack of a RIC, but for the savings and availability, you couldn't beat it. Hell, these things were at comic shops all over the country, and you can probably still find some of them. As for the other RICs, like I mentioned, there was a nighttime variant and a RIC exclusive light-up, so we never really had a proper 30cm Gigan standard and RIC combo. X Plus, you gotta get on that, and give me a little mini flying Gigan. Or a spinny buzzsaw. Yeah, you already know. Gigan here is perhaps the most notorious shorty. Here's the thing though, he's 29.5cm tall, as well as 31cm long with his tail, and 18cm without it. But just because he's 30cm doesn't mean he scales to the line. Yeah, this sculpt is an early one, but compared to like every other 30, he needs a couple inches. I really don't think it's a huge deal, but it is kind of a letdown, especially when his top horn is the only reason he's 30cm. Like I said in the Megalon review, we need an updated sculpt, or the 73 suit. They can't hold out on us forever, or they'll just make a def a real, which you'll also get. First up, here he is next to the 25cm Gigan. Yes, I can finally do a scale comparison. I'll probably make a more detailed video on this later, but for now, let's take a sneak peek. Like I said, I do think the 25cm is stronger, but both have their pros and cons. And one con for the 30 is definitely that he's not too much taller than this little guy. Yikes. Next, I had to bring back his pal Megalon, correctly sized and ready to go. Here he is next to the 30cm Mechagodzilla 1974, another big boy who has the height on him. And lastly, here he is next to the 30cm Gorosaurus, just to make him feel better about his height. With there being a lot of Gigans, there were a lot of price points. The original 30cm, the cast kit, and the nighttime paint all retail for somewhere around $170. The RMC one went for somewhere in the ballpark of $300, and the RIC exclusive went for about $180. This guy, product of the Diamond Age, went for about $160, depending on your retailer. Surprisingly consistent pricing for that age gap. I'm a lucky bastard, so I scored this guy sealed on eBay in 2018 for $150 shipped. For you, Mr. Not So Lucky, unless you already have it, he's probably obtainable for under $300. If you don't want to go on the hunt, I'm just saying I think we're due for another Gigan, but don't hold your breath. I'm keeping this section in only because on the original Gigan, the arms came separate as well as the tail, but future releases only required tail assembly. Just a fun fact or something, I don't know. While we're here, I'll point out that the arms and legs are articulated since they can pop out, so that's fun. After a multitude of dead ends, God amongst men, Leslie Chambers helped me figure out the sculptor for this guy. And by the way, go check out his channel, great content. I'm going to put his link in the description as well. This sculpt actually dates back to a Monster Maker 28 kit by Shunsuke Niwa, who X Plus also used molds from on early 30cm figures like Gorosaurus and Anguirus, as well as FSL sculpts like the GMK line, among others. He has some seams around his appendages and on his head, but nothing too glaring. As usual, let's begin with the head, which is honestly quite movie accurate. My favorite detail has to be his visor eye, with a translucent red lens over sculpted bumps that give it depth and realism. Above that, we find his little laser crest, an ability only featured in posters and games that he never actually fired in the film. His beak and pincers look fantastic, sized just about right and giving him that signature look. His tongue is sculpted to his bottom jaw, and there's a barb type thing in there as well, which just proves how much attention to detail these figures get. But then there's those teeth. They're too big and flanged out, making his face look more goofy than it should be. It's odd how such a small detail can be quite off-putting. It doesn't even look too different from the suit, but maybe he was always too small to notice. On the top of his head we find some of his spikes, growing in size up from his neck and seemingly accurately proportioned. Additionally, his neck is about the right length, whereas it's too short on the 25cm. Moving down to his arms, I have to say I appreciate the bagginess that really gives the impression of the suit. It seamlessly forms into the claws, which look sharp and menacing, and includes a little dirty weathering texture. Onto his chest we find the interesting combination of scales and flesh, both of which have depth and are riddled with fine details. However, this may be a case of being over-detailed, as the scales look too busy, whereas the flat scales of the 25cm appear much more accurate. Further down we have that fan favorite buzzsaw, with spines extending from his abdomen that I would definitely not want to make contact with. On his legs there's similar bagginess, accompanied by a knee pad that does look a little oversized. His foot claws are clean and sweet looking. The tail looks great, with a ton of scales, spines, and that sharp point on the end. I do like how it's not too long and has a little curve to it. Finally, another prominent feature is his wings, which I think look incredible and correctly sized. One thing to note is that they sway to his right side, a neat detail that again mimics the flimsiness of the suit. In fact, there's a lot about him that's suit-like, and those details go a long way in my book. While it's hard to exactly pinpoint, I still think some of his proportions look off and make him look awkward. But of course, I couldn't really find anything specific, so I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Unfortunately, Gigan has a pretty static pose, but there's a few things worth mentioning. The main thing you'll notice is that he's leaning back a bit in sort of a crouched posture, something we've seen him do in the films. Only, he suffers a similar issue that I found with the Megalon, where the head is positioned to make him seem completely upright and straight, but from the side he clearly has a slight lean. All this does is make him look awkward, with a protruding belly that gives him the appearance of being pregnant. Additionally, I take issues with the arms. While realistically there's nothing wrong with them, I much prefer the bent posing on the 25cm claws to the almost straight ones in the 30. Even with the articulation, any way I try to pose them just looks off to me, probably because he almost always had his arms up in the film. Also, the way his arms are positioned make him look uncomfortably lanky, and it just really bothers me. Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on. I guess I just kind of find them subtly awkward. I'm actually quite happy with the paint overall, though I do think it could be a little more intricate. The main body color sports a very dark green hue, but includes an abundance of blue-green highlights all around to make it interesting. Unfortunately though, because the base color is so dark, these highlights kind of get lost. I think a shade or two lighter on the base coat would have fared much better, but not as light as a 25cm. The gold color on the scales seems really nice, with a slight shine that does make them quite appealing. All of his metallic type areas, including his beak, claws, and spines, are painted with the same flat silver spray, with his claws being a tad more shiny. I do really like how the base of each of those areas includes some gradient brown paint to give the illusion of a seamless transition from flesh to metal. It works quite well. The inside of his mouth is painted a warm pink and his teeth a simple bone white. Looks good to me, I don't see what else it would need. His fins have a brighter yellow base coat that transitions to brown at the intersections. It's an intricate paint job that helps him stand out, and I think it's really well done. One interesting thing is that on previous releases, and the 25cm, the spikes on the end possess a red, bloody highlight that transition into the fin, which is almost completely lacking on the Diamond reissue. It's strange, as I do prefer it to have that paint on the end. Due to the many issues of this guy, the paint job does vary from release to release. The Diamond probably has the weakest paint job of them all, but it's got enough there to keep it interesting. He looks pretty good. I still prefer the 25cm, but I can't lie, the 30 here more than holds its own. There are some really rough early X Plus figures, and the fact that this guy can compete with some more modern figures speaks volumes. I have to put my personal bias aside and really look at this guy, something these reviews have helped me to do. He still looks awkward to me due to his posing and buck teeth, but those are really the only glaring issues I take with this guy. Objectively, he's a really close likeness to the suit, and I'm beginning to love him. I give him 9 buzzsaw slices out of 10. Thank you guys a ton for watching. Leave a comment, let me know who you want to see reviewed next, maybe what I could be doing differently, something like that. And don't forget to dislike, unfollow, subscribe, bell icon, something like that, and I'll catch you in the next one.